Al, it's time to talk about old video games.
Old video games. We like old video games here.
We do like old video games here. Sometimes they're fun.
Yeah,
Sometimes they're
sometimes.
old. Sometimes they're video games.
What?
Very shocking, I know. Yeah, we're going to talk about one of them old video games this week. Al has not played it, so I'm going to talk about it.
I'm here for the ride.
Al's here for the ride. It's
I,
like
I'm just vibing.
this is like we said, this is what we were talking about before we started recording. This is just an Otome episode, but the roles are reversed.
I will eventually play this maybe.
Yeah.
Um, but I have not had time to do like
You're
anything.
buried under just a sea of video games at the moment.
A sea of video games and life.
Yeah, true. You are not wrong. So yes, hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc, Al, and Lady
Hello.
This is episode number 430. That is not the time,
It's not the time.
not the time at all, but is the episode number. We are talking about Never 7, The End of Infinity. It's a video game.
There's a certain person that I really like that's involved with this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. My eyebrow's itchy.
Scratch it.
Yeah, so this game and its sequel, Ever 17, just recently came back out, or it got re-released over here for the first time, and were re-released in Japan as well for Switch and PS4 and PC and everything. Apparently those re-releases aren't great, is the word I've been hearing. So I played a fan translation of this game, which was the PSP version of the game. Because this
Wow.
thing has been out on a lot of stuff. It was originally released on the PlayStation 1 on March 23rd, 2000. Back then, just titled as Infinity. Also released on the Neo Geo Pocket Color on November 23rd, 2000. The title change.
Damn.
The title change happened, I believe, when it came to Dreamcast. So then it became Never 7. The Dreamcast version came out on December 21st, 2000. The original PC release was October 26th, 2001. Came to PS2 on June 26, 2003. Came to the Mac on March 3rd, 2005. The PSP version came out on March 12th, 2009. Came to Android on August 28th, 2012, and iOS on October 24th, 2012. And then they re-put it out now for, like I said, Switch, PS4, and PC on March 6th, 2025. And then those versions are in English for the first time.
Nice.
Yes, like you said, there is a certain person who is attached to this, which is why we would have been interested in it, and probably why
Hmm.
they are putting these back out as well.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a bit more popular now.
Yes, these games were written, of course, by Kotaro Uchikoshi,
Uchikoshi!
the man behind the Zero Escape series, the Ida Somnium games. Now, one of the big two at Tokyo Games, of course.
Hmm.
And this was of course
Just
before
chilling in the
all of
studio at
that.
GDC.
Yep, just chilling in a hoodie.
Yes, this is way before all that.
Yes. Let's talk about the development of this game.
Okay.
This game was directed by Takumi Nakazawa. He directs 3 of these games. He also was the director for World's End Club.
Oh, wow. You
And
still need to play that.
I still do need to play that. You're right. A scenario assistant for that, and also was a scenario assistant for the Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative.
Hey, that's a good video game.
True. Yeah, he works at Tokyo Games as well with both Uchikoshi and Kodaka.
Good for him.
Like we said, Uchikoshi was the planner and scenario writer. And then the music was done by Takeshi Abo, who would go on to do the music for the science adventure games, all of those. He did the music for Emio the Smiling Man, so quite a few games that we have played and enjoyed.
True.
True. Anyways, back here. Development began immediately after Uchikoshi's first visual novel, Memories Off, was finished. He only did I think a couple of routes of that, so it wasn't actually his game, but
Hmm.
he did work on it.
Right.
He was unable to make heavy use of science fiction themes in Never 7, as his superiors at Kid told him the game needed to include cute girl characters in order to sell. He kept science fiction themes light. We'll get into that. And the game was designed with a focus on dating game elements, with the main focus being to develop a relationship with a girl. The Dreamcast version includes new scenarios not available in the PlayStation version, which I don't know if like there's a difference between that and what I played, if there's new stuff in, or if all that stuff's just in the PSP version or not. Maybe we'll find out. Who knows?
Maybe.
The development team depicted reality in the world of Never 7 as subjective and relative rather than absolute. As such, for each route, that route's history is the only one Makoto, who's the main character, knows, and the only one that is real to him. The Curie syndrome only exists to him in the routes where it is mentioned. The bells were used as symbols for reality being relative, and were described by the development team as vague existences, saying that one cannot know if they exist or not. This is just like, we're just going straight into like into specifics of routes and everything. In the bad ending to Izumi's route, the bells, which should be fictional, remain while something that should exist disappears. This was a metaphor for the idea that illusions become reality while reality becomes delusion. The game's title comes from how Makoto is unable to escape the infinite loop and reach April 7th, and how most of the 7 characters die at some point during the game. It is also based on the belief that 7 is a lucky number. The game was designed to be open to speculation and multiple interpretations, a design philosophy that was carried over to later entries in the series and was part of what led to Infinity becoming chosen as a series title. One example of the openness to interpretation was that the development team did not want to confirm or deny whether the game's world was connected to that of the Memories Off series, saying that while characters with similar names may appear, they wanted to leave the players to decide for themselves what the answer would be. Like we said, the game's soundtrack was composed by Takeshi Abo and features geometric music because of the game's theoretical and science fiction elements. Prior to composing the music, he read through the game's story to understand the setting and each character's personality as much as possible. He would write his impressions of the plot with a focus on the emotional flow and the events that would occur throughout the story. He valued his first impressions as very important for this. According to Abo, this method takes longer time, but allows him to make better music with a stronger relation to the game's world than if he had just designated different songs at different points of the game. Because he enjoyed the story, the music strongly reflects Abo's own musical tastes. The opening and ending themes of the PlayStation Portable version, hence the one I played, titled Sen Oku no Hoshikuzu Furasu Yoro no Sora and Hokoroi Bishi Hana, respectively, were performed by the band Asriel. Like I said, the game was released for the PlayStation under the title Infinity on March 23rd, 2000. The Neo Geo Pocket Color version, titled Infinity Cure, was released on November 23rd, 2000. They put it out on the Dreamcast, and that's where they changed the title, and then they put it out on all these other platforms. In Famitsu, the PlayStation version got a 26 out of 40.
Oh.
Apparently, the reviewer of Famitsu said called the game's mood boring from start to end in their review of the PlayStation version.
Damn.
So there's
They did not vibe with it.
According to Nakazawa, the original version of the game did not sell very well. The PSP version was on the lower end of the top 1,000 best-selling video games of the year in Japan in 2009, with an estimated 4,250 copies sold. But despite all this, they still made like 4 more games.
Yeah, that's wild.
They made Ever 17, Remember 11, 12 Riven, and Code 18. Nakazawa worked on Ever 17 and Remember 11. Uchikoshi worked on all of them except Code 18. And then because the science fiction elements of Never 7 were positively received by critics, Uchikoshi gradually focused more on the sci-fi and less on romance with each new game, with Remember 11, the third game, not featuring any dating elements at all. So there you go.
No dating.
Yeah, this is it's a dating sim, and then you get to parts, and then you're like, oh, this is an Uchikoshi game. This is, yep, that's that. Oh, if you played on the Dreamcast, the VMU would show the player how their affection was with a specific character. How nice.
Aw.
But yeah, this is a game that takes place over a week essentially, and then you'll get kind of looped into time loops essentially. You play as Makoto Ishihara. He's the player character. He is a college student. He's here on this seminar camp with some other students from his college. And he's kind of here because he's basically skips a lot of classes and kind of needs to do this or else he's going to get kicked out of college.
Oh.
The other members that you were here with are Yuka Kawashima. She's the leader of this group. She is very energetic, gets drunk very easily. You also have Haruka Higuchi. She's very quiet and has mysterious elements about her. Then you have Okuhiko Iida. He is a wealthy playboy. He is the heir to the Iida financial group. There's a lot of bad rumors about this dude. And then he's also been dubbed by people I was playing this game for in Discord as boy, because his basically casual attire just has like him in a button-up shirt, but like some of the buttons are undone at the top, so you can see his cleavage.
Good for him.
Good for him. You also run into this gal named Saki Asakura, who is she's a wealthy gal who's also on this island that you're at as well. She has connections to Yuka. Then you also meet the sisters Kurumi and Izumi Morino, who are running this cafe called Luna Beach. And basically you get all intertwined with all these characters, and you can go on routes with all the gals, and those will lead you to endings and everything, and then you'll get a bunch of story, and you'll find out the mysteries about everyone. But like, most of these kinds of games, you got to go through a common route first.
Mhm.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So you kick off the game, and you're having like a nightmare about a girl dying. She has a bell in her hand, and you're like, that's weird. And you wake up in a sweat, and you're just like, whoa, that was a weird
It's
dream.
kind of weird to dream about people dying.
Yeah. And Yuka busts into your door and is like, everything's good? Yeah, everything's good. All right, let's just be normal. You go through your first day. You get to, pick choices here and there. You can go play tennis with Yuka, or you can go to the beach with Haruka. Those choices will depend on probably like which route you're on and all that sort of stuff. Eventually, you all kind of reconverge at Luna Beach, the cafe. You get to meet the sisters who run the cafe and everything. You also meet Saki there because she storms in because you guys stole her pizza.
Damn, that's a criminal offense.
Her seafood pizza that she was really wanting to eat.
Seafood pizza?
Seafood pizza.
What's the name of this booby man?
Okuhiko. He's a booby
Look
man.
him up.
Yeah, look at his cleavage. So yeah, you get,
Oh wow, okay.
see, I told you, he's got the cleavage out. He's got the
Yeah, he
he's
does.
got the boob out.
I like that the visual novel database says that his personality is narcissist pervert.
Yeah, true. Not wrong. So yeah, then you go to a hotel and sneak in and go to a pool, and then there's an earthquake that happens, but you know that the earthquake's gonna happen beforehand. You're like, I'm getting premonitions, and everyone's like, no, you're not. Stop. Come on. The next day, you go about your business again, and then Saki and Haruka get into an argument, and that leads to Saki getting thrown into the ocean, and a big wave gets her, and you have to get her out of the drink because an earthquake happens. And then she basically, depending on which route you're on, most of the time she'll think that Okuhiko is the one who rescued her because she's the first person she sees after she wakes back up. But in reality, it was Izumi who rescued her. The third day, you go fishing with Haruka.
Nice.
She gets real into fishing throughout all the routes and everything. And then she's like, how do you kiss? Teach me how to kiss. And then you kiss her on the forehead. And then that leads to problems later in the day because Okuhiko has a thing for Haruka. And he's like, why are you going fishing with that guy? He's a jerk. I can't believe you would do this. Don't you know that I'm the one that's in love with you? And then as soon as he says that, Saki shows up with some lunch, and she gets very mad because she falls for Okuhiko because she thinks he rescued he rescued her. And that leads to a fight between them, and then also she brings up that Haruka's a clone.
What?
A clone? And
Huh?
I was like, huh?
Where'd that come from?
And then at one point they're just talking like, oh yeah, clones are like a normal thing now. Like there's no law against having clones. That's all been put away. Everything's fine.
I want a clone.
I don't know if you want a clone or not.
What if the clone and I could like balance work so that one of us can do well, so that we don't have to work as much as one person, we can spread it out a little bit as two
That's
people
fair.
and also have fun.
That's fair.
And then we'll just have to share our experiences with each
Yeah.
other so that no one's missing out.
So all that happens. You go
See,
on.
I'm an ethical clone owner.
You're an ethical clone owner. After that, you have dinner, and then you go on an adventure to get scared in a lonely graveyard in the middle of the
It's one of
forest.
those things.
Yeah, a test of courage. That's what those are called.
Yep, that's what they're called.
That's what those are. Then you get to go to a hot spring, I think, at some point the next day. And then the fifth day is basically like you're kind of going and doing things with whichever route you're on, essentially. And then once you get to April 6th, which is the day that you remember from the nightmare, is the day that someone's going to die. Then someone will die on that date. Oh no.
Oh no.
And
Can you stop the death?
well, when you're going through the route the first time, no.
Oh.
But you'll remember that you on the first day you find the bell from your dream and you pick it up and carry it. But you'll also find out like whichever route you're on, she'll have a bell as well. And then once bad things happen, she'll have the bell in her hand and it'll fall and disappear. And then you warp back to the 1st of April.
Whoa, April Fools.
April Fools, and then you basically got to go through like the same set of days again, but this time you're basically figuring out how to prevent the death from happening again.
Okay.
So the first route I did was Yuka's. Like I said, the common route stuff kind of is basically the same and everything. There's one night where Kurumi goes missing, and she basically is at this shrine that's supposedly like a place that is like it's a rundown shrine, but people who go there get quote unquote spirited away. And she runs away and goes there, and like you and Yuka go after her and try and find her. But like once you go to like that shrine, Yuka gets like real scared and it's like you shouldn't go in there. Like don't go in there. But you go in there and you get Kurumi out of there, and then everything's okay and everything. But then like on the 6th day, or like one of the days, you go back there and you make a promise with Yuka like, hey, we're not gonna go back to this shrine. Everything's fine. But then on the 6th day, she leaves you a note and's like, I'm going to the shrine. Don't worry. And then you go there and like you slip down through a little crevice. And you're just hanging out there, and then an earthquake happens. Oh no, and it's gonna squish you.
Oh
no! Obviously the first time around, you get squished, and you both die, but you got the bell, so you're fine. You get looped back to the first. So you wake up and you're like, that was a dream. That was not a dream. Those were real memories. Oh no.
Oh no.
And then like happens at the beginning of the game, Yuka busts through your door and is like, hey, what's up? And then you like embrace her and everything, and it's this time. You have the memories of everything, and she also knows what's going on because she's also looping.
Oh.
So like when she busts through on the first day, she busts in because she had a nightmare as well that you were the one who died.
Oh.
So since both of you know that you're in some sort of time loop and everything, you basically have to plan together in order to figure out exactly like, okay, how do we go through this? And the plan basically is like, all right, we go through the days normally so we don't like arouse suspicion. Don't tell anyone else that we're going through this time loop or anything. Get the bells again, and then we figure out a way to not die on the 6th, which seems to go well, but then things happen and oh no, we're in the same position as we were on the 6th.
Uh-oh.
But this time you basically... You save Yuka by like just grabbing her before the place collapses on you, and then you fall into the ocean, which makes you wake back up in the lodge where you're all staying again, and you're like, what day is it? What day is it? And she busts through your door again, and like you look at your watch and you're like, oh, it's the 1st. No, wait, don't hang on, that's a 7. We did it. We survived.
We did it.
Yay! Basically like you fell into the ocean, and everyone else kind of got you out, and you kind of just passed out and were asleep for a day and everything, and you're all good.
Yay!
Everything's fine. You have escaped the loop, and you're all good. And then you get some romance stuff as well.
Do you get smooches?
You get smooches, yeah.
Nice.
After that, I did the Saki route, which again is kind of similar. This one was much less sci-fi. It was kind of just more like romance route. Because even like when you do the loop thing, he's just kind of like, I guess I just got a wish granted that I could redo this again. Anyways.
Her eyes are very far apart.
Yeah, it's 2000s anime. That's the art style. Hers is
very far apart.
Hers is basically like, dealing with the tsundere gal. That's kind of like her route and everything. And a lot of this as well is kind of like trying to make sure that her and Haruka don't get into like their beef with each other, and also kind of figuring out why exactly they have such like a tension with each other. And it turns out they have like conflicting stories of what they think happened. Saki thinks that Haruka was a clone gal that was was living in like a burnt out shed on her property, and then she gave this clone gal a bell because they were like the same age as kids. And then her parents were like, "You gotta get that bell back. You can't give them to a clone. They're lesser people." And then like her parents made her throw rocks at this kid, and one of them hit her in the head and caused her to get a scar, which Haruka does have. Haruka, though, on the other hand, has a story of like an older girl pushed her and she hit a chair, and that's how she got the scar. And the main character's like, wait a minute, those two stories don't match up in the slightest. Like, hang on. So he basically has to like bring the two of them together and be like, okay, you two have different stories. This is not the same thing. You guys are having beef with each other for no reason. And then they're like, oh, okay, cool. I guess that's it. Saki's saying
So whose version is right?
They're both right.
Okay.
They're not like they're both having different stories. It's just a coincidence that, the scar.
Oh, okay.
Saki's whole deal is what is she? Basically at the end of her route for the first time through, everyone's still like kind of upset with her for the Haruka stuff and everything, and then some money goes missing, and she was at the lodge at night, and you see her, and everyone basically thinks that she stole it, and then they're all like, "You definitely stole it," and then she runs out and runs over to like this place, this little like alcove where the lighthouse is, and she's like, "I'm gonna jump."
Oh God.
And she jumps.
Oh God.
And then the main character's like, I wish I could go back and redo this so she doesn't jump. And then, you do the whole time loop thing because she has the bell as well. Because it's her and Haruka are fighting over the bell because they both know about it. But, again, their differing stories are not exactly what's happening here. So, yeah, you go back and everything. It's a little weird because, like, she does not have memories of you, but you have memories of her. So it's like you having to, like, go through those days and, like, win her affection again type deal.
Huh.
Kind of weird. But yeah, eventually the whole thing goes down again, and you basically just have to talk her out of like jumping off the ledge and killing herself again. And you're able to do that. And you find out that like she had been taking care of this dog that is kind of like a stray at the house that she's staying at, and on the night of the 6th, it starts raining very heavily, which it does in every single route. And she sees the dog kind of out and about, and it's like kind of like not doing so well. So she thinks it got like hit by a car. So she runs to the lodge where you're at, and she tries to like get you to like, help her take it to the clinic and everything. And, you see her like holding something to her chest. So that's why they think like, oh, she's clearly got the money. No, she's holding a dog.
A dog.
Yeah. So
dog and money easily confused.
Easily confused. Well, it's very pouring rain at night, so hard to see.
Right. I'm just kidding.
No, I know.
I was gonna make an Ace Attorney joke, by the way, about the missing money, and then like you told me she jumped off a cliff, and I'm like, never mind, I can't make the joke anymore.
So yeah, like we get this all the misconceptions done and everything, and then the police call you like, yeah, there was like a burglary ring that hit your house and took the money. We got the money. They confessed to it all, anyways. You're good. And everything's fine after that.
Yay!
After that, I did Kurumi's route. Her route is weird because like she looks like a middle schooler and kind of acts like a middle schooler as well, but she's apparently like a senior in high school, and also, which is again weird because you are a college student. Yeah, so this was a little weird route. Her route.
Yeah, she looks like a kid.
Yes, her route is basically you learn that at one point she got kidnapped as a small child, and then suddenly reappeared 3 years later, despite the fact that no one could find her. She just suddenly reappears at the place where she was kidnapped, which was the old shrine from the Yuka route. So everyone's very confused about that. Izumi does not think that she's her actual sister because of this, because of the whole like time discrepancy, because of when Kurumi was kidnapped, she was like, a baby, and when she comes back, she's the same age as she was when she was kidnapped, even though it's been like 3 years. So everyone's just like,
Oh, huh.
that's weird.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Doesn't make a lot of sense. Um, and also she's got this like really nasty scar on her back that is a bad thing for not a bad thing for her. What is a bad thing for her? But it's like it's a traumatizing thing for her because like obviously it's a nasty scar that she's had it as a baby and no one knows exactly how she got it. There's like multiple stories that her parents have told and that it's like not really the thing. Also, she like got close to this other boy at her school, and then he found out about the scar, and he was like, I don't want to be with her. She's got a nasty scar. It's gross. I don't want to do anything with her. So it's become, like a complex for her and everything. So like when you go swimming and everything, she'll like make excuses of like, oh, I got a headache. Sorry, I can't go, because she doesn't want people to see it and thinks people will like hate her if you see it and everything. How does she die? Questions to answer. I think maybe it's at the shrine again. It's maybe kind of the similar deal as Yuka's, because she goes missing and goes to the shrine again. Because she also has she remembers when she goes there and like and goes missing in the common route. She tells you that like the shrine seems familiar. It has a scent that's very familiar to me when I was a kid. It smells something like that my sister was wearing at some point, like traditional clothes or something. So you go there and get crushed and everything, and then you got the bell, so you're fine. And then you loop back in and you gotta do everything again and figure out exactly what's happening and make sure she's okay and do all that. And you learn that because she was at that shrine when she was kidnapped, basically something similar to what has been happening to you has happened, and she got transported 3 years into the future while the kidnapper got crushed by the shrine collapsing onto him. So she has a scar from basically that shrine collapse, but she got sent 3 years into the future. And that's why she was still a baby when they refound her and everything.
Oh, okay.
And then also you basically kind of have to like reassure her like, oh, the scar doesn't bother me or anything. It's all fine. And also like reassure her that like, she's actually sisters with Izumi and everything. Like that's not a thing, because she eventually finds out like Izumi's like, I don't know if she's my sister or not. Like I don't know. And like that makes her freak out. And that's kind of the impetus of her going to the shrine at the end of her route. So you save her and everything's all hunky dory. Yippee.
Yay. Yay.
I did Haruka's route afterwards, which is basically, you trying to figure out why this girl is so quiet and mysterious and loves fishing. So yeah, you learn more about her and everything, and how she basically will tell you constantly like, I don't have a heart. I feel I'm different than everyone. I feel like I'm a replacement for others, obviously, because like, if you've played the common routes and everything, you learn that allegedly she's a clone. And she knows this as well, so like that's why she's like, I have like a replacement for people. No one's gonna care if I leave or anything, all that sort of stuff. And then eventually you learn that you get the story about Izumi and Kurumi's the whole situation, the kidnapping and all that sort of stuff. But you also learned that their dad is like this very famous genetic doctor and everything, and was like one of the first people on like the front lines of like learning about cloning technology and everything and all that. So like, his daughter's been kidnapped. She's been missing for like a year now. So he's like, I'm just going to clone my kid. And that's how we're going to fix this.
All right.
So he's successful in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new clone and everything. But then, the same thing happens where Kurumi comes back. And then they're like, okay, what do we do with this? Because this is still at the time when cloning is still like frowned upon. So like, we can't have a clone here. So like, eventually they kind of just like, they give the clone of Kurumi to like, I guess like some of his assistants who had who like were married. Like, you get to take care of this kid now. The thing you learn, of course, though, Haruka's that clone. She's the clone of Kurumi. So like, it's a whole thing of being like, okay, well now we know this. She sees you with Kurumi at one point and being like together like in your room, and she's like, oh god, he's gonna replace me with the original. That's not good.
They don't look alike.
They don't. It makes it very peculiar. I won't be like they're like the main character's like, well, this is how she's looked like a year like before, and then this is how she's gonna look in a year and a half or something. It's like I don't know if that's really true or not.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
And then you still have the whole stuff with Saki because that doesn't really get resolved in this route immediately. But Haruka dies the first time through because you're out in the rain and you find her, and then they find the dog that Saki's been taken care of. And then Saki shows up at one point, and the dog tries to go after her to like, you're like, oh, hello, I like you.
Hi, I'm a dog.
But the dog runs out into the street, and here comes a car.
Oh no.
And Haruka runs out to grab the dog, but she gets hit by the car, and then she is bleeding out, and you basically have to like take her to the clinic. And the doctor's like, I mean, we don't have spare blood here. Like, it's a small island. I don't know what to tell you. Also, like, we can't get blood from the mainland because the rain's too bad. So it's gonna take it would take like 4 hours by helicopter. So that's not good. And also, she's got like an hour left, my dude. Neither of you have the blood type I need. So like, she's kind of done.
Ugh.
So yeah, that happens, and then again, she has the bell, and you get warped back, and then you gotta do the whole stuff again, the whole stuff.
The stuff.
The stuff.
Can't let the girl die.
Can't let the girl die. She gets hit by a car and is left all bloodless. But this time you basically kind of go
bloodless.
Yes, but this time because you know about the whole stuff with like Kurumi and everything, you're like, okay, well, I gotta find her. She's gonna have the exact same blood type because they're clones. They're the same person. Right. So you have to go find her. But then like she was at the lodge when you left, and now she's missing. And then eventually she came back. So like you grab her and you take her to the clinic, and then everything's all fine. Yippee!
You do all that in an hour?
I think like you have like a couple of more hours because like you're not at the clinic the whole time. Like you're out kind of like roaming around trying to find her and everything. So like you have a little bit more time and everything.
Okay.
But yeah, she's saved and everything. She has to go. They take her to like a hospital on the mainland as well, and then like she also kind of like is able to get like that relationship with like Izumi as well because like they didn't know they were sisters or anything, and now they know, and now they have that relationship as well. So everything's fine in that regard. Yippee!
Yay!
And then you get the Izumi cure route, which unlocks after you do those first 4. Again, everything is kind of the same and everything. This time you're romancing Izumi, who's the older character from you and everything. She Kurumi's sister. She's running the cafe and everything. Everything's all hunky dory, going fine. Then eventually, you find that you have a premonition of her laying face first in the mud, dead with the bell, and you're like, oh, that's bad.
Yikes.
So you try and find ways to prevent that, but doesn't go well. And then eventually you find out, like on the 6th day as well, like Okuhiko tells you, like, oh, by the way, the whole reason for the seminar thing was kind of we were doing an experiment on you, main character. We were trying to basically fool you into thinking all your premonitions that you were having were true and all that. Like, it's a kind of a goof, but even though like some of them they couldn't really like prepare for, like, an earthquake or a car battery being dead or some of the other stuff.
Right.
And also Izumi was in on it as well. And they're like, he's like, why would this be a thing? Why are you betraying me? And then she kind of runs out of the cafe and then falls off a cliff.
Sure. Wow, this just came out of nowhere, this cliff.
Yeah. And then you also kind of fall as well, and because you're trying to save her, and you both fall down. And then you get warped back to the first and everything, but this time, Izumi as well has the same memories as you. So she's also kind of looped with you. But you also learn,
Oh.
Hey, you want to know who was in charge of this seminar camp? Who's the professor in charge of the seminar camp? It's Izumi. So now you get to romance your professor.
Ew.
But she tells you like the whole reason for this thing was that like they're performing an experiment on this thing called the Curie syndrome, which essentially, in very layman's terms, is like, what if we made gaslighting people into an actual syndrome?
Oh. Well
Because
then.
on Wikipedia here, this is kind of very, again, layman's terms. It's where if multiple people believe in a delusion and delusion is spread to others, delusion becomes reality. So again, kind of gaslighting people.
Yeah, huh.
And they're like, well, you were the test subject for this because of this, and also like, we wanted to see if this was actually a thing, and it works because like you have no connections to all these people here. You don't go to college either, so you don't know that I'm a professor. So like, it's kind of the best case scenario for this. But also like there was things here that like weren't involved in this experiment. Like you were actually having premonitions and everything, and now we've kind of done this time loop, so it's kind of weird.
Hmm.
um, so there's this whole thing of like, is this actually him kind of having this syndrome, or are they actually looping through time and all this sort of stuff? So there's a whole lot of conversations about that, and then like there's also this third tier about it that like, or third kind of explanation about it, and that brings us into one of Uchikoshi's favorite things to talk about in a video game:
Okay.
Schrodinger's cat.
Yay! He does love
He
that.
does love that. There's a whole bunch of that, in here. Like this is throughout like the first four routes, we get kind of some sci-fi stuff, especially with like the time looping things and all that sort of stuff. Here in this route, he's basically just like, all right, the gloves are off. We're going full bore into this. We're getting like,
He's like, this is what I wanted to do.
we're just gonna super dive into this stuff, and it's like it gets kind of heavy and on the nose at times because he just kind of just flows it out of himself and like, all right, here's all this philosophical stuff. I'm just gonna put it out there for you. And it's kind of like, all right, I guess.
Sure.
So yeah, this is the one where it's very much an Uchikoshi route and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, Schrodinger cat becomes a big part of this thing as well, because the whole thing of like layman's terms about Schrodinger's cat is that it influences the past essentially, and the one of the other things about the syndrome is that it could influence the past or influence future or whatever sort of stuff. So they have like this big conversation about that, and they're like, maybe this is the thing, is that like you're willing yourself into these delusions to have these new realities, or you're actually doing time warps. Who knows? I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
You know, I don't think a college IRB would accept this as a solid experiment. This feels like a lot of human experimentation they would not be okay with.
What do you mean?
I'm just saying.
This is
Just
I
saying.
mean, this game does take place in 2019, so all bets are off. Who knows what happens in the future? I mean, we have clones now, so. So yeah, you have this whole thing, and like you're also kind of trying to make things still the same as they were, so not tip off anyone else. And then again, the same thing happens, but you get two different endings here. Um, One of them, basically you fall down, and you get hurt this time, and you're the one who dies. You're like, oh, that's bad. Then there's
Yikes.
another one where you wake up down at the bottom of the cliff with her, and it's just like, oh, I guess we're just here and everything's fine and everyone's okay with it and they're all good. Um, so there's that. Then there's also another route you can go on with her where like everything's fine at the end, but like you also get back at Okuhiko for being a part of this experiment by basically pulling a prank on him to make him think that he's going through the loop himself, but everything's fine. And it's a very weird thing, and then all the girls try to prank you and turn to like kissing them. It's very weird.
Huh.
It's very strange. Um, but yeah, like the big grand finale of the Izumi route is it's like you both are fine after the fall and everything, and now you get to be together with your professor. Yay.
As somebody who is a professor, no.
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 And then there's also like another bonus route you can do, um, which is the Yuka Cure route, which basically lets you play through the back half of her route, but as playing as
Mhm.
her.
Oh,
which makes it a little bit different. It's basically the same thing, but you do get some more backstory into like her character and everything, and like the backstory with her and Saki and all that sort of stuff. So that stuff's interesting, but again, it's kind of just like it is a lot of the same stuff you've already seen. It's just through a different character's perspective and everything.
right.
But yeah, that's this game in a nutshell, pretty much.
How was the actual romance of it?
It's
Was it
fine.
interesting, or
It kind of
did
feels like
it
it's just
seem like he was just kind of shoehorned in so he could do like a
yeah.
weird story?
It kind of feels tacked on at times. Like it's fine. It's whatever.
What if Uchikoshi wrote an Otome game?
Oh God. But yeah, it is very much an Uchikoshi game. Like I'm more curious to play the other games because I know they dive more into the sci-fi route just to see how Uchikoshi they get. Because just it was very funny to see her bring up. Oh, hey, have you heard about Schrodinger's cat? I was like, okay, yep, this is an Uchikoshi game.
Yep.
Also, there's multiple times where it's like, have you heard about this story? Like one of the characters will be like, have you heard about the story of the Little Mermaid? And then the main character's like, oh yeah, I've heard about that. This story about this. It's like, yep, that's an Uchikoshi game.
Yeah, that's super Uchikoshi.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, have you heard about this plot relevant thing that we should
Yeah.
talk about?
Not enough talk about like snails though, unfortunately.
Oh, that is unfortunate.
Not about thinking about snails.
Oh, what about motives? Was there any talk
No
about
complex
motives?
motives, unfortunately.
Damn.
Because I don't think really anyone here has motives here. No well. Although there's one point in the Yukakura, or not the Yukakura, but the route where you're pranking Okahiko, he's running around trying to and no place will let him in.
Why won't they let the man?
Everything's either closed or they just don't want him in.
God, what did he do to get banned from?
I mean, he was kind of a jerk, so that's what happens.
Is it because the were out?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, man,
clearly.
this is inappropriate, sir. We can't have you in here with those out.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think this was interesting, especially to see kind of just like early Uchikoshi and just like how his writing was. Like you can clearly see the mold of like what he would eventually go on to do with like the Zero Escape and the Somnium games and all that sort of stuff. Especially like some of his like famous tropes that he likes to throw in here. Like have you heard about this story? Have you heard about Schrodinger's cat? Here's just a bunch of science nonsense that we're just gonna throw in here as well.
Yay!
I think it, like I said, it does get a little heavy-handed in the back half of the Izumi cure route, where she's just like talking about this whole syndrome thing and like relating it to Schrodinger's cat and basically doing all these like telling you how it all works and doing all these like thought experiments and giving you examples and everything. Like it gets a little too much there. And I think like that's one thing that obviously we see improved upon as his works continue on, is that like he doesn't kind of just like info dump that onto you like super at once. It's all more spread out in a way.
So some mystery leading up to it.
Yeah, it definitely isn't like as just like let's just dump this on you right at once. It's like, oh boy, I don't know, having it more spread out does help. And then like I think that was also surprising is how much he snuck in a lot of that stuff, because like a lot of the stuff I had read about this was like, oh, we had to make this a romance game because the sci-fi stuff wouldn't sell. And then like, for the first 4 routes, you kind of see that as like, oh, time loop, that's, kind of basic stuff. And then once you get into that 5th route, it's just like, he's piling on the sci-fi for you. You're like, oh boy.
Oh boy.
You gotta hide it so like deep into the game where they're already committed to playing. So
right. You can't give up now. You're already there.
Yeah, but yeah, it was interesting. Like this, like I said, to see early Uchikoshi and how he will evolve later on. So it'll be interesting. I think when I play through, I have both Ever 17 and I have Remember 11 that I can play through, and I'll be interested to see how those 2 games are different from this and everything. Because I know I think the second game, like I said, and this is less of a romance game, and then the 3rd game is just not that at all. So I'll be curious to see how they balance the 2 in the second game, which I've heard the second game is the better one between these 2 games, especially because those are the 2 games that they put out with the re-releases and everything. So
right. Does it have the same characters, or is it different
I think it's
characters?
different characters, but it's supposed to be the same world.
Okay, so
So
same
like,
universe, just
yeah,
different.
same universe, which I think it's supposed to be like all these games are supposed to be the same universe, and they didn't. I guess this says here that they basically during development of the second game decide, oh, let's just put them together as connected worlds, and then that leads on to the other games also kind of being in that same boat, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm interested to play the second game, like I said, because I've heard it is better, and see more Uchikoshi goodness.
Uchikoshiing.
Yes,
That's hard to say.
Can't wait to see where Schrodinger's cat winds up in these other games.
I love that for him.
Yeah. So yeah, an interesting time for sure.
That is interesting. I wasn't sure what to expect when I first saw that they were being released finally over here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect a dating sim.
Right.
But it sounds like he also snuck in some of his
He did.
interests
He
anyway.
did sneak in some of his interests for sure. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this.
Yay.
That's gonna do it for this little thing.
Let's go and do it for this here podcast episode.
This here little podcast episode.
I don't know why I turned into like a Minnesota and just then.
Yeehaw.
Wait, Minnesota doesn't say yeehaw.
They
They're
could.
not cowboys.
You don't know that. Maybe they do.
I mean,
Who
I've
knows?
never been to Minnesota, so I can't tell you 1,000%.
Regardless, that's gonna do it for us this week. So yeah, if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared Now Watch, and also my columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. Follow us on Blue Sky seasonalanimecheckup.com. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment of Critical Analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, Hot Tubs, and Pac-Me on Amazon.com. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast early. Our monthly exclusive Patreon podcast. We'll have a new episode of that up soon. If Al can find a movie that is not gatekept from her.
I'm so mad about that. I really wanted to watch that movie.
And a whole wealth of other bonus content up there as well. Next week, we can't leave March without getting into some tournament action, as of course the real March Madness is already underway by this point. So it's time for our.
What do you mean? We're the real March Madness.
True, but the other real March Madness will have to get underway next week as our annual tradition continues.
Mm-hmm.
This is our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8th time doing it, of course.
Yo, that's a lot.
That is a lot. So we'll dive into that. I believe we have an idea for this. It's going to be very difficult to trim it down to 64.
Yeah.
So
we have a doc on this.
Yes. So we'll have to do that and figure out a way to make that way easier for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So look forward to that next week.
Mm-hmm.